Talk on another PolitiPod Live. Tonight we'll cover Oh Shoot, Liam, ICE escapades, Trump's war on America, the latest Epstein file dump, and the Trump dump, as well as this week's segments Election Central and Judges. I'm Tom Bickle.
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
And we'll get started with Oh Shoot.
Oh shoot, here we are again. Like bad ravioli comes right back at you. There's been an issue down in Louisiana, another gun incident. This time during the Mardi Gras celebrations in a little town called Clinton, Louisiana. There were some teenagers who have used they were using firearms for some unknown reason, and they were firing them, and there were 5 people wounded, one of whom was a 6-year-old kid. Now, none of those people died, and they say that they will all recover from their wounds, which is perhaps the best case scenario in that situation. But the fact that it happened at all is horrible, and here we are again, and it's another gun incident. And there was another person, a 26-year-old, who was also arrested for having an illegal firearm, but they said that he had nothing to do with the incident. So there's just a bunch of people running around with illegal guns during these celebrations the community is having, and enough people to require several arrests and to end up with several citizens, several kids wounded. What do you think? What do you think, Tom, about guns? Got any thoughts?
It makes me wish I knew more about the story. It sounded like the motive was a little fuzzy there, if it was accidental or something else. So the motive, what motivates a thing kind of matters. Beyond that, we sound like we got too many guns, man. I mean, call me crazy. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this out there. If I have to be on the cutting edge of this, I guess here I am. No, and if the last 6 months have proven anything, it's that the gun-toting, barrel-chested Second Amendment saviors of this country, who are threatening to go to hell and high water if you come for their guns, they're completely hypocritical, have no leg to stand on. We should just start enacting gun laws and come take their guns. They're not going to rise up. They're not rising up against tyranny. So, yeah, it makes me think that. It makes me think we should just round up all the guns that we threaten, that we say we want to round up. The really bad killing machines, Matt. Not the good killing machines, just the really bad ones. Still a bridge too far in this country. So I think that's ridiculous. That's what makes me think.
Yeah, and the weirdest part, the weirdest twist, is that it's going to be Trump who comes after their guns. So, hey, all you guys have been told for 40 years that the Democrats are coming for your guns. Guess what? It's Donald Trump, the Republican, who's coming for your guns.
In a very oblique way, I predicted this. And I'm not trying to claim any credit because my intuition is notoriously terrible. Look at my personal life. But in 2015, I read up enough about Trump to know that he leaves everybody holding the bag. It's just what he does. It's his whole gig. He never gets into anything that's going to benefit the other person. And he doesn't care if it does. If it does by accident, I think it bothers him. I don't think he likes it. And it never seems to. It's a rare thing. With every business that I've ever heard him get in, the Russians probably got what they wanted. The Saudis probably got what they wanted. But eventually he will just sell out one to the other. And like a production line, he'll just keep it moving. You come into my circle, I sell you out the back door into the wood chipper and collect my 10%. And I looked at gun nuts and people who care about, all the things they profess to care about, immigration, all these things. And I said, he will screw you over too. You're in line. Your turn is coming for sure. There's no way to step out of that line. You stepped into it. Now you're there, and he's gonna screw you over too. And whether that means gun nuts, like I said, people who care about immigration, they're not getting what they want right now. Immigration is a mess. We're spending way too much money to do the wrong things to the wrong people. And I don't know. That's about as far as I get, I guess.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, and he does it every single time. And the only people, I will say this: there is one group of people that he wants to look out for, and that's the immensely wealthy. If it's Putin or the Saudi Arabian prince, he wants to make certain they get taken care of. He's
Right.
not going to screw them, but he certainly wants to make certain he gets something out of it in any case, in every case.
If it didn't
And
mean his life, I bet he would eventually. I bet he would get around to failing them eventually. Somebody else would come along and he would sell them out for 5 cents more. He's like the Monty Burns of the real world. He's like, he had a great line from The Simpsons many years ago. He says, I'd give it all up for just a little bit more.
that
I
does sound.
always thought it was a great line.
Yep,
And anyway, so yeah, I knew these people would end up just eating ash, but I'm frequently wrong. Who knows? But on this one, it bears out. He's just what he does.
that is true though. Yeah, with everyone, he's always taking both sides and then coming out the good, the hero who predicted everything from the start. Yeah, that's his mo. And look at how he's getting away with being in the Epstein files, and look at all the other, the list of felonies, much less the list of corruptions. And
Breathtaking. Breathtaking. Why are we tolerating this? I don't know.
right, absolutely true. Excellent point. Got to get on that.
Yep, right. I'll work on that.
Well, speaking of things that have happened, and there's maybe perhaps a small hint of goodness, and that is there had been a 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father who had been captured kidnapped by ICE and sent down from Minnesota to Texas. And folks know about this because of that now famous picture of Liam wearing the little blue bunny cap, and the fact that he had stuffed animals in his backpack and not weapons of mass destruction, as was promoted by some that he must have had. And the latest on that is that Liam and his father made their way back to Minnesota in the past couple of days, and from the Dilley ICE facility in Texas, and that was on judge's orders. So it was a judge who made the right decision, and just as a number of judges have been, and here is a positive step in one case. Deputy AG Todd Blanche says that Liam and his father have not applied for asylum, and that's supposed to be some sort of jab at them, I guess. I mean, it's also, we have to assume that if Blanche is saying they have not applied for asylum, that they have indeed applied for asylum.
Their credibility is so toxic that if they say something, to be safe, you must assume the opposite.
Exactly, exactly. They've proven that talent, and so we should allow them that they have this way of doing things. But there's the Liam's been able to get home. I would imagine that the trauma from this is not something that will quickly be dealt with, and that is horrifying and certainly tragic. And there should be something done about that too. But at least for the time being, he and his father have made their way back up to Minnesota. Anything else about that before we?
I saw a meme on the internet. This is my big thought, Matt. Meme based thoughts, but it made a good point, and you can't argue a good point. And it basically, paraphrasing, it said, think of all the kids who have been swiped, who didn't have a cool costume or a catchy photo meme wherever we can go, "Aw," and rally around that person. Nobody got a photo of him at all, or if they did, it wasn't cute or it was blurry, or and we don't know their names. We'll never know their names. There's thousands and thousands of people sitting in a cage right now with old moldy food and in a puddle, and there's rat piss or whatever it is, whatever untold horrors, because they don't have access to lawyers or the media either. Uh, all these things going on. It makes me think of those people. I'm glad this young person got loose. I've heard too many stories, too many just brief, not really stories, not articles, just passing. I'll read that. Yeah, they showed up. The ICE accused them of assault because they supposedly drove their car at him, and they went to court, and they were proven innocent. They dropped the case or whatever, and then ICE immediately picks them up again, and it just doesn't stop for these people. Every time they think they've surmounted, their horrendous legal obstacle, nope, there's another one. Just because we can, just because we want to, and just because we're terrible. And so it makes me think of it's all these things. They it's I think it's trauma. I think it's vicarious trauma. I've had it up to here with people getting shot and people getting run over, and people getting kidnapped and beaten into the ground and shot in the face with munitions, and over and on and tear gas, Matt, and holy crap, just all of it. I'm over it. Sorry, I'm rambling now, but that's what it makes me think of. It's all in a string, and I'm glad this little kid, I guess, for now, is free until the next time he dares show his face in public or even in private. They might kick in his door. They seem to be really committed to the vindictiveness, the specific cruelty. They don't just want to get their scalps and send them away on a truck or a train or whatever it is they think they're doing, but they have to rub it in and try to show off, like just caricatures of goons, you know, just playing the part like it's bad street theater. And anyway, that's what it makes me think of.
Too true. Too true. Yeah, and as you say, right now it's never ending. And how do you deal with it, and also kind of vicariously get beyond it, which is the problem that we're facing currently. I agree. And with that, we'll move on to our next, which is the first of our segments, which is what we call Election Central. PolitiPod, in combination with Election Central, lets you know about election news and upcoming elections. There's a congressional district around Houston, Texas, and its representative passed away almost a year ago, and they've not had representation all that time. And to Sylvester Turner's family and friends and constituents, we do want to offer our condolences, of course. Republicans knew the district was blue, and they delayed the special election and in every way possible. Short of the National Republicans activating the Insurrection Act, which is another thing that they're trying to do in some places, but they couldn't derail democracy forever in this case. And in the end, the jungle primary that was held reduced the candidates to two people for a general election, which was held earlier this week. Democratic candidate Christian Menifee won in a landslide, and it was not close. It was 60, one of those sort of 60-40 sort of things, or 62-38 or something along those lines. But it was clearly a landslide. And so um, after a year of not having representation in the House of Representatives, they finally get someone who can represent their interests and concerns. And that means the restoration of one of the Democratic votes in the House. That's not the only election news from down in Texas. There was a long held Republican stronghold in the state Senate, District 9, and it had been reshaped out of its gerrymandering. At the In the old form, it literally looked like a hairpin. It avoided a whole section of town by going up and over and down. But it was reformed and into a more compact sort of rectangle, which is what you'd want to see, a square or a rectangle. And with the reformed district, it looks like that went Democratic as well. So the Republican seat that is now Democratic in the Texas State Senate, it's still very lopsided and very heavily Republican, but at least this District 9 now has honest representation picked by the people there. And the Democrat won very similar numbers. It was 57% to 43%, sending Taylor Rummed to the Senate. And there was another one. There was a local election down there that was um, that that was for the Plano Council Place 7. They don't call them districts; they call them places. And so Place 7 went not that it's a nonpartisan race on the local level, but Dr. Shun Thomas was competing with Colleen Aguilera Epstein, and Dr. Thomas was, I think, the one that the more Democratic folks, were in tune with and were supporting. And he won 60-40, straight up 60-40 split. And he's their new representative in place 7. So congratulations to all three on their not only their victories but on landslide victories in Texas. Some upcoming elections. February 7th, there will be, speaking of Texas, there'll be local elections all across the state. Also, Louisiana has some special primaries in their House districts 100, 37, 60, and 97, and also in their State District 3. February 10th, the elections move up to Minnesota, where there will be local elections in the state of Minnesota, as well in South Carolina. And there'll be a number of elections as well down in Oklahoma. So a number of states having local elections. And Virginia will have some special elections in House District 5 and Senate District 39. Over in Washington State, Thurston County is having its special election. And one more thing I'll mention in Election Central, and that is a breaking story, one that's happening even as we speak, that's been happening just this evening, and that is some politics in New York City. The governor of the state is running for re-election, and her lieutenant governor is challenging her, which is not typical, not common, but it perfectly legitimate. He's decided to run for governor. That's fine. He picked as the lieutenant governor. Decided to pick a running mate from Hochul's home base. Hochul is from Buffalo in the area, and Mr. Delgado has elected a local Democratic Socialist from Buffalo to run as his running mate. And in turn, Governor Hochul announced today that she would have the former New York City Council Speaker, Adrienne Adams. That's the good Adams from New York politics. And so she's going to have Adrienne as her lieutenant governor nominee or candidate. However, there's a unique twist in this that the leader of the Democratic Party in Brooklyn is enraged. Apparently, she thought that there was a deal in place for Hochul to name someone from Brooklyn as her lieutenant governor nominee. And when she announced that it was not that person, the party boss, who had worked just 2 days ago to force a executive committee vote to support Hochul and publicly announced that, today released another press release saying, "We've rescinded our endorsement. We're not endorsing her. She didn't do what she said she was going to do, and we're not going to take it. And so now there's a public rift that has occurred in the political world here in New York City, and we'll have to see how it plays out. Part of why
Oh,
I mentioned it. Go ahead. What?
oh, I was just saying, oh, the drama.
Exactly. It's a telenovela that's come to life, and so it's the progressives in Brooklyn are talking about it as well because they are saying this is the sort of thing that happens in Brooklyn politics. The party boss sort of decides something and it magically becomes the position of the party without necessarily going through the the process, the going through the executive committee and all that kind of thing. So this is a perfect example of that sort of corruption, and we'll see if people pick up on that with the election coming up in the primary election coming up in June. There will be a number of seats, positions called district leaders, and others called county committee seats that are party positions. And depending on who has the most, majority vote decides on who takes over the party and who takes on the new party boss. So we'll see if people are willing to continue to do the same old, or if there's perhaps this is a stark enough example that people will feel that it's time for a real change. With that said, I'm Matt Nisanoff with your Election Central Report. Thank you for listening. There's an election happening somewhere across America every week. Get registered and go vote. That'll move us along to our next issue, which is ICE escapades. And there's a lot going on here. So I'll start things off with one or two and then let you jump right in. But so the border czar says that the feds are going to be withdrawing 700 law enforcement personnel from Minnesota. And that's alleged to be something that's happening immediately. Would be nice, be better if they had never gotten there. I assume that those are all the Texans from the Border Patrol that went up and have caused a bit of some of the issues that have been going on.
Hmm.
We'll see if they actually do it. They announced it. We'll see.
Right. We have to remember that a thing they say is just a thing that they said. You can't really count on it to happen when or how they said it would happen.
Too true. And the Klan has called for ICE officers to wear body cams. In this case, Klan means Christy Lynn Arnold Nome. That's her full name, Klan. And now she says she fears for her agents' lives. And that's what's driven her to this decision of having them wear body cams. At the time of this recording, at least, only civilians stopped by ICE forces have been murdered by gunfire or some other violence. So we'll see what she's talking about. I mean, I do hope if they have to be there, that they do wear the body cams and that footage will be made accessible.
The way they've been running, I can't imagine they would choose to collect evidence on themselves. But then again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding, and I'm sure I've read this somewhere reliable, that most police body cam footage goes to the police. It's not something that's it doesn't go to the mayor, it doesn't go to the public, it goes to the police. And when something happens, they'll release it when they're goddamn good and ready. And I mean, sometimes you have to sue for it. It takes years. That can't be right. And so for ICE to have their own body cams, yeah, great. I'm sure they have the finest technology our money can buy because they're swimming in it. So yeah, they probably got some pretty hot tech, buddy. But who's holding the data? Will we ever see it? I don't know. And if they can't see it, I mean, what good does it do? It's only there for them to use when they see fit or when they can uh, edit it, and they lie immediately before the truth could possibly be known. They lie about what the truth is. So of course you can't you can't trust. These are the same. Uh, these are the same people who presided over Epstein's Epstein's video and his. We're missing a minute. No, we're missing 5 minutes. No, we're missing 2.5 minutes. Wait, these 2.5 minutes are the same as those 2.5 minutes. What the hell? So yeah, I don't, I don't have a good feeling. Usually, body cam footage is good, but I'm
Well,
pessimistic, Matt. I can't think of a reason why.
even yeah, right, exactly. Even with it, they flat out lie. With the stuff that happened with Renee Good,
Right.
and they had the video, and they had 4 different versions from 4 different angles,
At
and
least.
they still said that it was an attack. And so they're going to lie regardless of whether there's video or not.
Right.
And at least with police, and I would imagine that with other law enforcement like ICE as well, as you point out, they have the authority over it. So even if there's a citizens board to review, which there are some places that have citizen review boards that look at incidents that involve police or law enforcement, and even with those, they're not allowed access to the body cam footage, or as you point out, the final say. Even if the civilian board has something to say about it, it all is subservient to the police authorities who make the final decision and will, freely counter whatever the decision is that the citizens would like to see. So it's wonderful that they have it. Doesn't mean much. We'll have
Yeah.
to
I
see.
believe it when I see it.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. Speaking of ICE and bringing it on to the funding of ICE, Congress has a number of budgets to look over to fund the government. And this is a unique situation where they have it finally said they're going to look at budgets, and they made this an agreement that they would pull out the sections that fund ICE, and we'll look at those separately, which is a that's kind of a big deal. They're going to make certain that the other resources of the government are funded and can move forward, but take a special look at this because of what is it, $85 billion, and all of a sudden, from out of a budget of much less, all of a sudden it's ballooned up to 85 billion, and where that money is going, and that is going to fund the purchase of former military equipment, military grade equipment. And does that help with de-escalation? Uh, yeah, I don't think it does. I think I may be able to back that up. Um, so, with all that, there are some in Congress who are calling for Klan's resignation. We'll see what happens with her in the coming days and weeks. 2 agents involved in Alex Preddy's killing, Jesus Oka and Raimundo Gutierrez, are from South Texas, have been placed on leave. ProPublica called them out and named them, which is unbelievable. Is certainly not something that is commonly occurs. That they were able to get a hold of the actual names of these guys.
I
So
wonder how you've. I haven't looked into that to find out if they even it is known. How do you suppose they got a hold of that information? You got to be pretty sure.
yeah, I mean, these are not people who just say things unwarranted and don't double check their work.
Right.
These are people who not only double check but go through a room full of lawyers and find out what it is they can and can't say and how they have to say it and
Right.
what
One
sort of
one would think.
basis.
Sure.
So
There you go,
it's
trusting those institutions, Matt.
I still do. I still do. Is it amazing?
Some of them remain
Yeah,
tattered though they do.
exactly. Um, and some are even funded.
But
So,
I think it's remarkable that they got these people's names. I was beginning to be afraid that they would go unidentified and just swallowed back into a faceless horde of khakis and balaclavas. I'm glad that we seem to have some name to keep tabs on, and they aren't just lost in some sort of mix. Good.
absolutely. Speaking of folks whose names we all know now, there's Bovino and how he can't stay out of the news. He's gone. He was moved on by the administration, and yet he's in the news. Apparently, while trying to gaslight Americans over the assassination of Alex Preddy, he was involved with a phone call with one of the prosecutors up in Minnesota. This particular prosecutor is Daniel Rosen, who is an Orthodox Jew. And Bovino tried to reach Rosen during the Jewish Sabbath when he was not taking calls and not actively working, taking time off. And he wanted to get a hold of him because he wanted to complain about how the federal charges um, were not enough. The federal charges against Preddy, Bovino was saying, were not tough enough. This is after he's dead already, but Bovino wanted him charged and wanted the charges to be tougher. And he couldn't get a hold of this prosecutor. And so, what do you think he did? He started making
Something super appropriate.
exactly something super appropriate and just about what you would expect, and started making comments about his being Jewish and what that means and how how Jewish people celebrate. Well, not the word he was using, but the way that they practice their religion, and so some certainly anti-Semitic things. And now everyone's being very hush hush about it. Even Rosen himself is not commenting on what's happened, and we'll see what comes of it, if anything. But it has leaked that the calls did take place, that the comments were made, and that here we are talking about Bovino again because of his priorities. Anything about Bovino that you'd care to share before we move on to another icon of our current administration?
I feel like I want to make some sort of an Eastern European like hand signal and spit on the floor. That's all I got for Bovino is some sort of a curse that I, in a language I don't understand.
There you go. Um, there you go. May the Lord bless and keep him far away from us.
Something like that. Why not?
There you go.
Yeah, away from us. Good. That's
Yeah,
nice. Nicely
that's
done. I should have
zero
let you learn.
Moscow.
Yeah.
Um, there you go. There is a new memo that's been issued by ICE Director Todd Lyons that was submitted to a Minnesota federal court, and it broadened the warrantless arrest powers, letting agents detain immigrants they deemed likely to escape, whatever that means.
Wow.
Perhaps to be applied as fairly as their focus on undocumented people with criminal records, which has resulted in 80% of their arrests being U.S. citizens.
80%.
Yeah,
I had not heard that.
they're working on it.
Yeah, they're working on something.
Yeah. But it's interesting. You hear that sort of thing, and as well, you hear this thing about withdrawing 700 agents. Well, I guess out of the couple of thousand that were sent, that's a good start. But then they extend the sort of powers that they have, which they've abused since being there in the first place. So we'll have to see what comes of that. There is some news that a judge has denied the request from Minnesota officials for a temporary restraining order, and that will allow ICE operations pardon me, the ICE Operation Metro Surge to continue despite the killings and the protests and the disruptions. Looking at Chicago, moving on to Illinois, the mayor in Chicago, Brandon Johnson, has ordered police to investigate alleged illegal ICE activity, which is it's a good step in the right direction. He gives police clear procedure to follow if they witness or get reports of agents acting illegally. So, in a previous episode, you had mentioned that's the sort of thing that you felt should be commonplace, not just something that people think about or people talk about, but that should be what the police should be doing in every city that ICE is
Absolutely.
invading.
Here, here.
So, good move. Good on Chicago's mayor. DOJ lawyer says this job sucks when asked to, as she asked to be held in contempt of court.
Shit. Sorry, go
She
ahead.
says she acted out in court because she just wanted to be arrested and have time to sleep. And the judge had just noted that the ICE was not doing its job when it came to how they were presenting things in court, and that was her response. So they are involved somehow with what's happening. I just don't know who's doing what now and how they're moving forward with things, but she needed the sleep, I guess.
Well, I read a bit about this. At least somebody had some conjecture, an opinion piece, and he said that a lot of people in the Justice Department, when they started pulling some of these bald-faced shenanigans, these unconstitutionalities, that a lot of people quit. They took principled stands and they bailed. They said, "I'm not going to be a part of this." Other people, they stayed. Some people, quite possibly with noble intent. If I leave with everybody else, they're just going to fill it up with a bunch of sycophants who are going to do way worse. At least this way, I can keep a finger in the pie, my hand on the till, try to ride things out, try to do things by the book, minimize the damage. And so, as much as I love to dunk on anybody who's a part of this administration these days, because you'll go blind looking for a good person in some of these dark alleys. But there are still good people there, and I don't know if she's one of them. She sounds like she's one of them. And from this person's conjecture, their speculation, there could be a lot of good people trying to do the right thing, and it's just got to be exhausting. If in fact they are doing that, it's got to wear them out, and it's got to be tough. And so I try to have a little compassion for this person, this theoretical person who I know nothing about, and they may trying to be staying on the right side of history. We don't know. Also, I think she overestimates just how much sleep you get in the lockup. I don't think it's a day spa. It may seem that way compared to what she's living day to day. I don't know. Careful what you
Well,
wish for. We
she
all may end up in the goddamn slammer before this is over if we're not careful.
she's gonna find out, and we'll see if she reports back later. But yeah, the district judge Jerry R. Blackwell said that he wanted to hear from the government, and he wanted to understand why they were doing things like arresting citizens when that's not their job, and he was going to hold the officials in contempt because of their failures, or the judge said alarming failures. And in response to that, DOJ attorney Julie Lee said that the system sucks. That's a direct quote. And according to Minnesota's Fox 9, which observed the hearing, she said, "I wish you'd just hold me in contempt of court so I can get 24 hours of sleep."
Hold me, Judge. God, God help me. I'm so tired. Hold me.
So let's. So is it principle or is it just exhaustion?
I would have sent this woman a pillow and some donuts. I really, the more I think about it, the worse I feel for this person. I can't imagine trying to chase after the shadows and boogeymen, this idiotic administration, these ridiculous. I've worked for some bad bosses, and they will send you on just ridiculous witch hunts just to fuck with you, or just to entertain themselves, or just because they're not really good at their job, and they'll give you stuff that to do that is ill-advised. And I can only imagine the snipe hunts and nonsense and coming and going and coming again that the errands that this person might be subjected to. My imagination runs wild.
We'll see. We'll see if it's an attack of conscience, and let's hope it
Who
is,
knew?
because more of
Who
them
knew
have
Darth
to.
Vader wouldn't be a good boss? That's weird.
Right, right, exactly. So hopefully that's a part to it. But there's a thing that happened. We're going to move on to Trump's war on America, and just a few minutes on that, which is that part of that of Trump's war on America is that he's now coming for your guns. Jean Perot announced that that as a proud supporter of the Second Amendment, that if people brought guns to Washington D.C., she would put them in jail. So the Second Amendment, I don't know if that's. I thought that was about being able to carry firearms, but in her case, apparently that no longer applies in Washington, D.C. And after decades of scaremongering about how Democrats were going to come for your guns, and how, remember when Bill Clinton was coming for your guns, and then
Oh yeah.
it was Barack Obama, and then it was Joe Biden, and then it was Kamala Harris, and then it was, name somebody quick. But yet, the person coming after your guns is Donald Trump, Republican. They're not doing a
Yeah.
thing about it.
Yeah. Remember when Bill Clinton was the dirtiest politician you knew of? Holy cats. Again, halcyon days. Sweet, sweet summertime. Just a refreshing memory. And Janine Pirro telling you they're gonna lock you up if you come into town with guns. See, here's the thing. They want they don't want to change the rules. They want to make it so they have less rules than you have. That's the rules they want. And we keep coming at it from this old school sort of, well, we'll just try to meet them, on common ground and try to work this out. And we keep aiming for this thing, and it's like cattle working it out with the rancher. Eventually, it's not, there is no amenable solution that's going to satisfy both of you. They want something that is not fair. It's untenable, can't exist in a free society. They want it's a double standard they want. They want their standard to be very loose, and they get every benefit of every doubt. Everything is looked at them, that is looked upon them with rose-colored glasses, very permissive. But for you, for the not them portion of the country, which is whoever they say it is at whatever time they say it, is scathing, exacting, narrow, constraining rules that you know what, you never really can get them all right. So why don't you just step in the cell now and get it out of the way? That's what it comes to. We can't. There is no pacifying these people. They just want them good, us bad. Never the twain shall meet. It's got to go.
Right, right, absolutely. So the purpose is whatever you don't want. So it's not two sides trying to figure out what to do so they can compromise and get it. You're absolutely right. It's one side and then the other figuring out that whatever you want is what they don't want. And
Right.
so it's gamesmanship that works towards only creating chaos. And it's the same stuff as Steve Bannon uh, before the first time Trump back in 2016 had made this vision of America and how it was carnage. If you remember the
Oh yeah.
America, yeah,
Just American
American
carnage.
carnage,
That's right.
yeah. and how horrible things were, and the streets falling apart, and crime occurring. You can't go to the store across the street because you will be murdered before you get there, and it will happen to you every day. Every day you go to that store, you will be murdered, and
Time and
everything
time
is
again.
it's so everything is is made into this horror show, and that turns out not to be what they were describing because of what existed. They were describing what they wanted to see, and they've pursued that, and they've worked hard to try to make that reality, so they can look back and say, "Oh, well, see, we were right all along because it's all as bad as we said it was."
You know, their ability, people, Trump supporters, their ability to excuse anything that fits their narrative, and it is elastic almost to the point of infinity. Like let's say you're a Trump enthusiast 10 years ago. You believe in your Second Amendment rights. You love your gun. You've learned all about it. You probably read the manual. You clean it, however, whatever. Take care of it. Take it out and shoot it all the time. Probably pretty good with it. Talk about it with your friends and the 22 and the 23 and all the hey. That's great. Really get into your hobby, and and in the bubbles we all live in now, I'm sure in that bubble, the right wing bubble, it's all about guns and liberty and freedom and loving your country and patriotism, and isn't everybody just great? Isn't this country great? And in the bubble, they have to eventually, even if they just go along to get along, eventually this swirls around, and infuses you. The government's coming for our guns, and we have to stay together and be strong so they don't come take our guns. And then you turn on the news one day and they're like, I can't take my guns to Washington, D.C. 5 years ago, they almost took over the government. you know, now they're taking away the guns. And the only thing and I can't imagine how you explain that to yourself, except they always find a way. It's always, no, he didn't. That wasn't him. You have just derangement syndrome, tooth fairy, Santa Claus, dot, dot, dot. But the guns, dude, these people it's a huge part of their personality. And they've been talking nonstop and raging to the libtards about how they're so important, and we're going to keep them, and we're going to use them for the tyranny and everything. And here's the tyranny. Okay, maybe they don't see it as tyranny, they see it as their side. That's fine. But still, somewhere in the base of the amygdala, the medulla oblongata, something has to go, hey, they're taking away our guns. Because this is how it starts. Well, you just can't have guns in Washington, D.C. Well, you just can't have them at a protest. Well, you just can't have them at an ice thing. Well, you just can't have them at a parade. Well, you just can't have them outside your house. Well, you just can't have them in your house. That's how it starts. They have to know. Somewhere there has to be a sentient, just a gob of something in their brain that says, okay, that's fine. The president does what he does, and all these things, they don't really matter. And I've excused and accepted and painted myself into this little tiny rhetorical corner. But the guns thing, they have to be able to deprogram all that gun nut stuff out of themselves to go, no, I trust him. And that is just such a step down the ladder. The only thing I can think of is that they lean on that thing. Well, you don't mean me. I mean, he means them. He means them, not me, people. But that, I mean, if you think about it for more than a few seconds, and I'm not saying they do, why? Because you're not brown? They just shot a guy face down in the street, filled him full of lead. They just shot a nice white lady the week before that. Do you think they're not going to get to you eventually? And I think they don't. I think they're just like, well, he's not talking about me. I'm one of the good ones. I'm a good guy. I don't think I don't know how they think it holds water. It just doesn't. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, they've been killing other people for decades, and that's fine. but now
Yeah,
they're
and they
shooting
always think
white
it's gonna be
people in the
somebody else.
street. So what are you going to do now, right? So all of a sudden you're concerned. Well, we'll see. We'll see what they do, and it will unfold here in the next couple of weeks. I would expect if
Yeah, we'll find
Perot
out.
is,
That's the
yeah,
great part.
we
I
will.
couldn't
Yeah,
stop
we
it
will
if I wanted
certainly.
to.
But we'll find out if Perot actually follows through on this, and if they try to expand it, which is what they will do next, or what they could do next.
Right.
Um, Moving on ourselves, let's look at the new segment that we're calling Judges. Maybe we'll spruce that up sometime, but right now it's called Judges. There's a judge in Texas who's ordered the release of Liam Ramos and his father, as we mentioned before. And in that ruling, the judge called the case has its genesis in the ill conceived and incompletely implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently, even if it requires traumatizing children. That's a direct quote. Another quote, apparently, also, it's the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. Unquote. The story also includes that the concentration camp food is infested with worms. Medicare's poor at the ICE facilities, and those they're actually making people fight for clean water for their, I guess, for their amusement. So these are the sort of things and the direction that we've already achieved, not where we're heading, where we are,
I
and
can't
that was
imagine.
from a
I
judge.
don't want to imagine. I've already imagined it. You know, I read the news and I keep paying attention to these things, and I pay attention like when these videos come out and somebody gets injured or killed by ICE. I watch long enough to decide. I try to decide what's going on here. Who's the aggressor? Who did what to who? Who stepped out of line? Who did something they shouldn't have? Who deserved what they got? You know what I mean? Did they do something that beckoned a response? Maybe they had it coming. Uh, and then I shut off anymore. I'm done. I don't obsess about it. I don't watch it anymore. And I have to. I'll watch and I see these things happen, and I go, "Yep, that he didn't deserve that. Yep, that was an execution. Yep, that was not self defense. Yep, yep, yep." Um, and I read about these stories with these concentration camps, and I don't see very much about it. It really has the air of something where there's not a lot of communication in and out. Uh, and but what I do hear is reliably bad, and it's excellently concentrated in what you just read. The food's bad, the water's bad. They're pitted against each other. I hear that there's abuse, sexual abuse, just terrible, terrible things. Matt, I don't trust the best of us, the best people among us, to be police and judge and jailers. People aren't good at being in charge of other people. It always comes to bad things. Even there's something that warps the human personality, I think. And that's with good people. These are not good people. They aren't trained well. They don't have good character. They're rejects from other walks of life where they wanted to have power over people. And I cannot imagine that you give these people other people to hold dominion over and insufficient resources to give to them. Uh, Not enough beds, not enough food, not enough water, etc. I can't imagine the hell that these people are going through. And some of them will make it out. Some of them will survive to see the sunlight. One presumes. One presumes. I don't guarantee or assume, but a lot of people won't. These people don't. You think these conditions are making sure people get their blood pressure medication, their kidney medication, their cancer medication, any infection you might come to get? Are you kidding me? These people are not getting basic human resources to stay alive, and we're gonna. It's
Right.
tremendous, and it's a shame that we'll. I guess we'll never. It's just another shame we won't ever live down in this country.
Fair point. And then there's the Stanford experiment from decades ago where they made some people guards and some people prisoners in a scenario to see what would happen. And just as you're saying, when the people who were made guards, they had sunglasses and nightsticks, and the authority really got to them, and they were just play acting. They weren't even in the
Right.
real situation. And can you imagine people who are malicious to start with being able to have, as you were saying, dominion over other human beings
Right.
and being able to show the worst of what they are.
Yeah. I don't know.
Speaking
I don't know what else to do.
speaking of judges, however, we will speak about a judge who is in New York who's ruled that Luigi Mangione, do you remember the Luigi and the Free Luigi movement? He is not going to be facing the death penalty in his case, the judge decided. The sleight of hand used by police in obtaining the backpack, which, if you do not know the story, when they did catch up to him in a fast food restaurant, apparently they worked very diligently to separate him from his backpack physically, and then sort of slid it over, and then kind of took it and sort of going through it. And because of not following their own rules, it looks like the judge has found that to be the material, whatever was in the backpack, to be inadmissible, and that will mean the death penalty is off off the charts. It's not going to be considered. The police have filed a case because, and on top of this whole thing with how they got a hold of the backpack, the police apparently filed the paperwork on the case as an issue of stalking. That Luigi was just a stalker and not a not based on any act of violence that he may have committed. So between just being a stalker and the evidence being excluded that was in the backpack, Luigi will not have to face the death penalty, and we'll see what happens when the case is actually heard, if anything. It will move forward, however, and that will take place in July.
Matt, this is a national case. This is a national manhunt. They found this guy. They got a huge break. Found this dude at McDonald's, and they didn't. How do you not send? Maybe not your best. Okay, you don't need to send MacGyver and the guy from Mission Impossible to swoop in from a helicopter. But send somebody competent. Competent. One competent supervisor would have looked over and said, "Hey, stop that." That's all it would have took, and they could have all that backpack in evidence. How do you send somebody who just, I don't know, picks up the backpack and starts passing it around and farting around and just doing weird things that blow up the chain of custody? It's a national case. How do you send the Three Stooges and Shemp to handle the backpack and just totally botch the case? I mean, it's preposterous. It makes, this is where conspiracy theories come from, in my opinion. It's hard to explain how you send somebody who has no idea about the chain of evidence. So yeah,
And that's where it got us. I mean, or
it's
this
just
is where
yeah,
it got us, and so there you jolly well are. I mean, that's they had the rules, and they uh, did what they did, and now there's accountability for it, and we'll see what happens with Luigi next. Moving on, there's one other thing I did want to mention in this segment, which is the failed Republican candidate for U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, apparently is on his way out of the DOJ altogether, even though he was instrumental in what was called the Weaponization Working Group. And that's the group of Trump loyalists who were targeting the attorneys, the real attorneys, who had exposed crimes based on the false notion of a stolen election in 2020. So this weaponization working group went after the attorneys inside DOJ, including Jack Smith, who based his pursuit of justice on the research of the illegal actions to overturn the free and fair democratic election of 2020, and included the report by Robert Mueller. And so now that he's lost his position, looks like he's also going to lose his job. That is Ed Martin. and he is out. That is going to bring us to speaking of legal things that are happening and things that could have legal consequences. We're going to move on to the Epstein files dumped. And you may well remember that the so called Justice Department declared that there were no further documents in the Epstein files and that they would not release anything else. And they released 3 million pages on Friday afternoon. So, among the latest, now Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick planned a trip to Epstein's child rape island. He even had his wife arrange the landing of their boat in time for lunch, according to the record. So there's emails that show his discussions between himself and his wife on their boat and their communication with trying to make certain they had a slip and that they were able to get to the island and where to park. And so all of that has also come to light from the 3 million pages. And here's another issue which has come up, and there's plenty from 3 million pages. But one of the others is a British top Labour official from governments past and present. Lord Mandelson has been caught with his pants down. A picture of him with a young lady showing him something on an iPad is in the latest release of the Epstein files, and he focuses in mentioning, he says, I don't know what she was trying to show me. I don't remember. She was showing me an iPad. And then he somewhat forgets to mention that in the picture he's not wearing trousers. So when we say he was caught with his pants down, he was literally caught with his pants down in a picture, combined with information on how Lord Mandelson had accessed and provided governmental financial information to Jeffrey Epstein. This was during the Gordon Brown administration there. It seems to be a red flag. Seems to clearly be something's the matter. Current Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called on Mandelson to step down from the House and to give up his titles. And in turn, Mandelson says he has no idea how the picture was taken, and he doesn't remember any conversations with Epstein about finances or financial information. So we'll see what happens, what comes from that. Another issue that's come forward is the Clintons, and they're having agreed to testify before the Republican House on their part in the Epstein files. I don't recall Trump agreeing to do that. Has that happened? I am not. I don't know. I don't think Trump has mentioned, other than the 38,000 times he's mentioned in these 3 million documents,
Give or take.
which, yeah, give or take. And I don't know that there are any more than that. So, I mean, there's something, right? It's actually more than 1,000 mentions per felony conviction that he already has.
I heard
So,
somebody say Trump is in the Epstein files more than Jesus is in the Bible. Wow.
fair point. I mean, what can you say? So obviously, I mean, there's got to be a point, and you've mentioned this, and I've mentioned it, and we've all mentioned it. There has to be the fact that there's such a lack of any sort of accountability, any sort of real transparency, where the documents are at least redacted, and the redaction is supposed to be of victims, but it seems that is more times than not the predator who is redacted, and their name or who they are is redacted more so than the victims.
This administration will tell you they are victims of Trump derangement syndrome. Those are the victims they're protecting.
Yes, they are. And they'll continue. Now, that brings us, of course, to a segment we like to call Trump Dump. There is a man who has been sentenced to life in prison for the 2024 attempt on Trump's life. I believe it's Ryan Roth, if I
That's
pronounced
right.
that correctly.
Probably.
He's been sentenced to life for attempting to assassinate Trump on a Florida golf course. I believe, if I remember correctly, he never actually saw or fired. He took a position up, and somebody saw a guy standing there with a gun
Man
and
hid in a
mentioned it
bush along a
to
fence, as I understand it.
right, and
Yes,
mentioned
and
it to
very far from his purported target. Never took a shot. But yeah, you can't hang around. You can't hang around the president's perimeter with a rifle and hide in a bush. If that's in
listen.
fact what he did, that's just what they're saying. Probably true, but I don't know. I don't trust any of these people.
Right. So, and we can all agree on that, not knowing the details of this case, but we can all agree, whether you are a supporter or a detractor of any particular president or any government official, for that matter, at any level of government, that hanging around where they are with a rifle and or a weapon and standing around and being cited by people, that's cause for concern. That's what they did. Whoever saw him did the right thing. They
Yeah,
reported him. They had the officials tracked him down, found him. They've
yeah.
arrested him, and now he's going to spend. He's got a life sentence.
As of this time, I am still anti hang around the president with an unsecured firearm. Still against it on the record for now,
Exactly, we should say on the record.
as far as you know.
No, no, that is true. That's a statement we both made, and I think we've made it
Absolutely.
clearly. And
Sincerely.
that is and it's a true statement that we all agree on. Apparently, when they saw him, he fled the scene, but they were able to catch up to him and arrest him.
Yeah.
And the Judge Cannon, said that the crimes were that they undeniably warrant a life sentence. And
Judge
they
Cannon,
earlier,
uh, been pretty friendly to Trump in the past. People may or may not recognize that name, but she's had a few things. Uh, when his fate was in her hands, it seemed to break his way more often than not.
and exactly, this is one of those, I guess, enablers. I think they call them, where there's nothing he can do that that is worth accountability. And so anything that's done, if he does it, if it's against him, that's what makes a decision, not whether or not there was something wrong, or uh, he committed 36 felonies or anything else.
34, but who's counting? No,
That's 30.
Keith Olbermann calls her his concierge judge. Yes, Mr. President. Anything else, Mr. President, I can do for you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Anything else you can do to us? Um, yeah, and this is as ridiculous as this whole thing where he wants a 250-foot tall Independence Arch built between the Lincoln Memorial and Arlington National Cemetery, if you can imagine that. And what? So it's taller than, it's like 3 or 4 times the size of the White House, and 2.5 times the size of the Lincoln Memorial, and every inch for every crime that he's gotten away with.
Still 0.01% of his ego.
I think it's a fair point.
I've seen, Paris has a beautiful couple of arches. They got the Arc de Triomphe. They got a few other arches around town. Uh, Grandeur, beautiful, historic. I don't want a Trump arch. I don't think we need a Trump arch, and I don't think it'll be a well built arch. I think he's going to fill it with dog shit and charge somebody for disposal fees and just cheap out on the thing. It's gonna come apart in 5 years. You're gonna have termites. I don't think we should have it. I really hope whatever he gets away with. I hope it isn't that.
Well, that and the ballroom, and the jet, and
You're right.
the
You're right. I'm a naive fool for hoping that none
you're
of
right.
this comes together. It's all
President,
happening.
and all the gold plastic pieces that have been put up around the interior of the White House. So one other thing I'll mention real quick, so that we can wrap up the um, Trump dump. Pardon me.
Get the branding right.
Trump who branded the Kennedy Center with his name, and all those sort of similar projects have been closed down. With all of the artists, or most of the artists, withdrawing their performances and not wanting to be at the Kennedy Center, his reaction, as any petulant child, is to say, "Well, if you don't want to be there, then I'm not going to let you be there." And he's announced that the Kennedy Center will be closed for at least 2 years. And who knows? Maybe that's the location he's going to knock it down to put up the arch. Could be.
Could be.
Just asking questions. So there is our Trump dump for this day, and we should move on to something. If you've seen us before, you may be familiar. This is the time in our show when we look at the Epstein count up. And what's the numbers for today? It's the days since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released. 3,886 days and going up.
And counting.
And counting. Thanks for joining us for PolitiPod Live for our political talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want political laughs, you can join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod. You'll find at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. This is Matt Nisanoff.
And I'm Tom Bickle.
Saying good night.